Hi everyone! Thank you for being here today. I'm Crystal and we will be going over touch and proprioception. There are different types of receptors. We will be going over nociceptors,
chemoreceptors, thermoreceptors,
baroreceptors, and mechanoreceptors.
Last but not least, we will be presenting how proprioception works. Now let's get right into it. I'm Crystal.
And I'm Heidi.
And we're going to be talking about the first receptor, which is nociceptor.
Nociceptors comes from the root word noxious, which mean unpleasant or sensations. So what are nociceptors? Nociceptors are free nerve endings which sense any pain stimuli. This pain stimuli could either be tissue injury, extreme heat, or any noxious chemicals.
So nociceptors are actually located all over the body, particularly under the skin, as well as the organs, muscles, joints, and bones.
So although the nociceptors are located in these places, the actual cell bodies of these neurons are located in the trigeminal ganglia and the dorsal root of the ganglia. So the main purpose of nociceptors is actually to respond to any damage that's caused to the body by sending signals to the brain and the spinal cord.
Okay, so how does it work?
So the way that this works is that when these nerves are exposed to the stimuli, such as the extreme changes in temperature or the cut-in sensations, the nerves will then send a signal to the brain or the spinal cord.
Oh, so your body will react with reflexes to avoid the pain, to become more aware of your surroundings. For example, when you get a cut on your manus, you'll begin to feel the pain immediately, and it'll gradually become inflamed. You can easily treat this by applying pressure to the cut and cleaning it with alcohol to prevent bacteria and protect it with Band-Aid.
So another example could be a broken ankle, and usually with a broken ankle, you'll immediately feel the pain. With this, you'll normally want to go to the ER as soon as it happens. And the ER, the nurses or doctors will examine your ankle. They'll ask you for your medical history, and after that they'll probably do some image testing such as x-rays. After they come back with the x-rays, they will decide whether to do surgical or non-surgical treatment. The good thing about nociception is that we are born with it. Imagine if you're hurt or bleeding internally, you will probably die because of the lack of sensitivity. So let's be thankful that we feel pain.
Hi, my name is Cole Hensley, and today I'm going to teach you about chemoreceptors. Chemoreceptors are the receptors for taste and smell and respond to chemicals in solution. The smell receptors are excited by airborne chemicals dissolved in fluids, coating the nasal membrane. The taste receptors are excited by food chemicals. The main sensory organ for smell is a yellow-tinged patch about 5 centimeters of pseudostratified epithelium, called the olfactory epithelium. The olfactory epithelium is located on the roof of the nasal cavity. Air entering the nasal cavity must make a hairpin turn to stimulate the olfactory receptors before entering the respiratory passageway below. So, the human's olfactory epithelium is in poor position for doing its job. 3 cell types found within the olfactory epithelium are the olfactory sensory neurons, the olfactory stem cells, and the supporting cells of columnar cells that form the bulk of the olfactory epithelium and support the olfactory sensory neurons. The main sensory organ for taste is the thousands of taste buds. The taste buds are mostly located on the tongue, with a few on the inner surface of the cheek, pharynx, and the epiglottis of the larynx, but most are found on the papillae of the tongue. Papillae are peg-like projections of the tongue's mucosa that make the tongue surface slightly abrasive. The most common cell types are the gustatory epithelial cells and the basal epithelial cells.
My name is Samantha Ramirez, and today I will be telling you guys about chemoreceptors. The cells in our bodies that are specifically designed for sensing have receptors on their membrane. These receptors act like fingers that can grab anything around them and turn to tell your brain what they have found, even if it is sensing a smell that you'd rather not smell. Receptors are designed to detect specific molecules called ligands, but they are picky and, like I said, very specific. Each ligand will only fit into the receptor that is specifically designed for it to detect it. And receptors will only convey messages about that ligand. This specifically is called a lock and key fit because only the ligand for a receptor can trigger a reaction. Every sensation that you have starts with a receptor on a cell in your body. The sensation of smell and taste happens because of chemoreceptors located in the sensory organs of your body. Inside of our bodies, our cells talk to each other through cell signaling. Once enough ligands have bounded with chemoreceptors, a signal is sent to the brain. Cell signaling is done by action potentials, which are short electrical pulses that happen when an electrical charge is released across the cell membrane. If the threshold level for a ligand is met, an action potential will depolarize the cell membrane. Once the cell membrane is open, calcium enters the cell, which allows neurotransmitters to be sent to the central nervous system. This leads to the appropriate sensation to be detected by the organism. After a short period of time, the cell membrane repolarizes and returns to the resting state. Regardless of the sensation, all chemoreceptors send messages in this way. It may seem like a lot of effort just to taste some chips or to smell your roommate's feet, however, it happens fast. Our senses are designed to give us information quickly about the environment so that we can react quickly. Most poisons have bitter taste, which is the reason why most people react negatively to the bitter flavors. We have two main chemoreceptors. The first one is central chemoreceptors. These are located on the ventrolateral surface of the mandibula oblongata and detects changes in the pH of the spinal fluid. This can be desensitized over time from the chronic hypoxia and is increased by increased carbon dioxide. Next, we have the peripheral chemoreceptors. These include the aortic body and detects changes in the blood or oxygen and carbon dioxide, but not pH, and the carotid body, which detects all three. They do not desensitize and have less of an impact on the respiratory rate compared to the central chemoreceptors.
Hi everyone, this is Margarita and I am actually presenting about thermoreceptors with group 6. So I'm just gonna go over these few questions and kind of go a little bit more in depth than what is on the board. So the first part I'm gonna cover is what they are. So thermoreceptors are free nerve endings. They are located all throughout the body and their function is to detect heat or cold temperature changes in the environment. They aid with homeostasis. And how do they do this? So thermoreceptors aid with homeostasis because our body is actually, as everyone knows, we are a warm-blooded species. So with temperature changes, it is important that our body is able to adapt to the environment in order for us to survive and still be able to function. And how does it do this? Well, our body adapts to the environment outside so that our internal organs and our internal functions are not affected. So thermoreceptors, like I said, they are located all throughout the body. Cold thermoreceptors are found in the dermis, while hot thermoreceptors are actually found in the epidermis. There's much more cold thermoreceptors than heat thermoreceptors. Their locations are specifically designed to protect us and protect the body parts we use more often. So for example, our hands are filled with thermoreceptors much more than our inner thighs. And the reason for this is our hands are in contact with so many things every single day. And the reason we have much more thermoreceptors, again, is for protection. So thermoreceptors being located all throughout the body are able to detect any change, and as soon as our thermoreceptors are able to detect a heat or a cold temperature change, It quickly communicates this from the thermoreceptor to our spinal cord, traveling into the brain and the hypothalamus. And at that point, our body takes over and reacts. So they can do this by starting to sweat to release heat, or vasoconstrict, vasodilate in order to increase or decrease blood pressure.
Hello everyone, I'm Cindy Cabrera and I'm going to be talking about baroreceptors today. A baroreceptor is a receptor that is sensitive to the changes in pressure. They allow the brain to sense blood flow and blood pressure in major blood vessels of the circulatory system. They are found in the arterial walls of the aorta of the heart and in the carotid arteries. They are important because they're what tells your brain if their blood pressure is too high or too low, therefore your brain knows to adjust. So there are low pressure and high pressure baroreceptors. Our high pressure baroreceptors are located in the aortic arch and in the carotid sinus. They are sensitive to blood pressures above 60 millimeters of mercury. They elicit a depressor that responds to the decrease of heart rate. But we also have low pressure receptors. Our low pressure baroreceptors are volume receptors. They regulate blood volume. Blood volume is what determines our blood pressures throughout the system. Baroreceptors help some things like bradycardia. Bradycardia is when you have slower heart rate than you're supposed to. They help them with their baroreflexes. Their baroreflexes work in 3 steps. The first step is that the baroreceptors detect the changes in the arterial blood pressure. Second, the signals are sent to the medulla of the brainstem, and therefore for the third step, the heart rate is adjusted. I hope I was able to inform you about baroreceptors today, and don't forget to thank your baroreceptors every morning when you try to get those extra minutes of sleep, and then you have to wake up really fast before you're late to A&P class. Thank you.
My name is Long Quach, and I had to do mechanoreceptors. They deal with the sense of touch. Mechanoreceptors are tiny receptors or nerve endings that respond to pressure and touch. They are located in the skin. They are located on the ends of neurons in the cutaneous layer. They're called mechanoreceptors because they are designed to detect mechanical sensations or differences in pressure. How they work. Let's say a mosquito lands on your arm. Light pressure stimulates the mechanoreceptors in that area. The mechanoreceptors then send a message along neurons that they are connected to. The neurons are connected all the way to the brain. When the brain receives this message, it tells the eyes to look down at the specific area of the precise location of the mechanoreceptor. When it sees that there's a mosquito there, the brain then tells the other arm to kill the mosquito.
Actually means unpleasant or sense.
So there it will.
So there are low pressure and high pressure baroreceptors.